Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff, and I think Stacy can share the screen. And again, everybody, please mute yourself and stay mute. You can put questions in the chat or save them, I think, till the end will be best.
Hi, this is Jeff. Can everybody see my screen? Because I have done something now that I can't see any of you.
I can see it.
We can see it.
Okay, great. I'm still trying to find all of you. I guess I'll just have to go without you all. Make sure that you watch for hands up or things like that, Lisa, for me. Thank you so much. My name is Jeff Skrentny, and I started as a birder back in January 1st of 2006. I woke up and said that I was going to be a birder on the first of the year in January of 2006 after reading a book called The Big Year. You probably know it from the movie. And I also read a book called Kingbird Highway by Ken Kaufman. And those two things made me think to myself, I'm an obsessive compulsive. I like making lists and I like birds. So why haven't I been a birder sooner than this? And so on January 1st, I went out to identify birds for the first time in my life as a conscious birder. And the first bird we saw down at Cherry Creek State Park in Colorado was a bald eagle. And I struggled for the rest of the day to identify 5 more species of bird, including mallard duck, a flicker, and you'll love this one. We spent 2 hours trying to ID ring-billed gulls, sort of missed the ring on the bills. Tonight, I'm here to share with you the Warblers of LaBagh story. And I got involved with LaBagh Woods through my kids. They both went to Waters Elementary School here in Chicago on about Wilson Avenue. And they have a program there called the Mighty Acorns. And the Mighty Acorns take kids out for 3 years. They go to the woods and they do restoration work. Once in the fall, once in the winter, and once in the spring every year. And the goal in the fall is to gather seed. In the winter, they remove invasives. And in the spring, they remove herbaceous invasives. They do this for 3 years. They keep journals. And I started asking about different sedges to the guy who runs the program. And he's like, no one asks about sedges. So if you're asking about sedges, you probably need to get involved in doing some restoration work here. And now I'm one of a group of core individuals, about 10, 12 of us, who do the restoration work at LaBagh Woods. We started with the Centennial Volunteers, and we've moved on to managing the group ourselves. And in fact, I think Linda and Dennis are here tonight. They're 2 of the co-leaders with me in this program. And we're out there doing avian-based restoration and having a blast doing it. And one of the reasons we're doing this avian-based restoration is for the Warblers of LaBagh. And before I get into some of the details about LaBagh and the Warblers, just a brief overview is that LaBagh Woods is, actually I'm going to skip that. I'm going to go on to my next screen and we'll get back to that in a second. So, oops, does that work? Okay. So let's look at some details of warblers at LaBagh Woods. The official list of Illinois birds includes, I just updated this today, 450 species that have been documented in Illinois, plus we have 2 species groups. And that means they can't tell whether it was a Pacific slope flycatcher or a Cordilleran flycatcher. And the same with the scrub jay. They don't know which one it was. So basically we're at 452 species of documented birds in the state of Illinois. And of those, just short of 10% of all the documented birds in the state are wood warblers. And that's 42 documented species of warblers. And 35 of them are regularly occurring in Illinois. And of the remaining 7, we have 4 that are casual visitors and 3 that Illinois Ornithological Society would call accidental visitors. So let's narrow that down and look at Cook County. In Cook County, we have 40 species of warblers that have occurred in the county. I don't know what the McHenry number is. Lisa, maybe you know. Stacy, maybe you know. But of the 40 species that have been in Cook County, 35 are, of course, the regularly occurring Illinois warblers. It's the same as Illinois we get here in Cook County. And 4 are casual, and there's been 1 accidental occurrence of a warbler here in Cook County. So now let's get to LaBagh Woods. LaBagh Woods is the place that I know probably as well as any place in Illinois for birding. And LaBagh Woods has recorded 38 species of warblers, which means we've got 3 that weren't the regularly occurring species, which is woohoo, big fun stuff. And 3 of the birds were casually occurring in Illinois. And I guess everybody always says to me, well, how does that compare? I mean, is that good? Is that bad? Montrose Point, everybody thinks of that as like the place to go for warblers. We're just as good a place to go for warblers as they are. Every year we get about as many different species as they do. They have 1 extra species of warbler than we have, which is the, I'll get to that a little later. They've got 1 more than we do, and 39, and that's 35 regularly occurring, 3 casual species, and 1 accidental. And then there's another place down in the south of Chicago called Eggers Grove, and they haven't had any casual or accidentals, but they also regularly get the 35 warblers that we see in the state of Illinois. So that is what the warblers are in the area and at LaBagh. So what does LaBagh exactly look like? What is LaBagh Woods? LaBagh Woods is 162 acres, as you see outlined here, basically by Bryn Mawr Avenue, Cicero Avenue, which is Highway 50 on the left of the map there, Foster Avenue on the bottom. And you can see that we've got the highway that runs through, the interstate runs through us. And of the 162 acres, we see that a big chunk of it on the west and south side is cut grove lawn. Not particularly great for birds, though we do get a lot of sparrows, robins, migrating blackbirds in those cut grove lawns. The rest of the site is what we refer to as a floodplain hardwood oak forest, mainly hosting oak species, as well as an upland savanna oak hardwood forest. So 2 basic habitat types. Over the years, this site has grown from being an oak savanna, oak hardwood floodplain to being heavily invaded by buckthorn that has filled the place up in the understory, inhibiting new oak tree growth, killing off some of the hardwoods, other hardwoods, and allowing allowing trees to grow in LaBagh that wouldn't otherwise have been there because there has been no fire through the woods. And in that 80 acres that remains, that would be what we refer to as natural. In the upper right-hand corner, just to the left where you see it say Lowell Avenue, and I'm going to switch to a different looking map here. That's a topographical map. And in the area just south of where it says Bryn Mawr Avenue, that's probably the most precious of all the places. That's our upland wet prairie. And that happens to host a couple of very rare plants that we've taken the seeds from there and put them in other places. But at one point, those were plants that were only found in LaBagh in Northeast Illinois. So this is where we do warblers. It's a little bigger than Montrose, which means you have to maybe work a little harder than you do at Montrose to find the warblers. But I think you see them with less people and a little more of a natural setting, which I think is very exciting. So let's talk about the warblers of LaBagh. And I think that's why we're all here. We want to see tonight's featured attraction. We're going to talk about the warblers of LaBagh. This is designed, as Lisa knows, because Lisa saw me present this for the first time that I presented it, is sort of, this is a refresher course for all of you to remember what the warblers look like. And I don't remember who said it in our pre-meeting or pre-presentation discussion about the sounds. Knowing the sounds of the warblers is really helpful, but I thought it was too complex to do both pictures and sound in one presentation. So tonight we're going to focus on what do they look like? What are the warblers of LaBagh Woods? What are the warblers of all the different areas that we'll be looking at this year? I know that I just saw my first yellow rump warbler the other day. It's my first warbler of the year. And I was very excited. And it just makes me start thinking about the other 34 species that we should have coming through in the next couple of weeks. And then there's always those hopes and prayers that we'll get a casual or accidental species coming through as well. So what are the warblers? Well, we'll go through them, what was taxonomical order. And the first one is the ovenbird. And I need to figure out how to move this thing that's in the way of my text. And I can't do that. So the ovenbird is common to very abundant in the spring. It's found regularly. It's a breeder in the state. We have not confirmed it as a breeder at LaBagh Woods. It's usually heard before it's seen at any place that you see it. And it's, why aren't you working? All right, I am having technical difficulties. All right, maybe that'll work.
What are you trying to do, Jeff?
I'm just trying to move the slides forward. So I guess I will keep working on it. Sorry, guys, new Zoom presenter. It's a ground sulking warbler, and it's a warbler that you can tell, of course, from its diagnostic head stripe. And the call, of course, is also diagnostic. It will often flush from the ground to a perch, and that's a great way to find it, is watching it flush up, where it'll give you direct eye contact and look right at you and let you know that you're interrupting its effort to find food. So the second of our tour today is the worm-eating warbler. This is a much sought after bird in Northeast Illinois. For those of you who know, it is found annually at LaBagh, and it's usually found on the railroad grade slopes or the area along the river. Worm-eating warblers, or wormies, are usually overflight migrants, which means they've jumped on a wind, they came too far north, they came down to find a spot where they could find some food, and then they'll head back south to the slopes, the steep slopes that they like to breed on in other parts of the state. They are also a ground sulking warbler, and you can find them looking around for worms and other bugs on the ground. And I think that for a little brown job, as some people like to refer to them, that they're a beautiful bird that we're very glad to have make an annual appearance at LaBagh. Last year was the first year that I didn't see one at LaBagh in like 7 years, but it was seen by some other observers. Next is the Louisiana water thrush. And oh, those beautiful bubblegum pink legs. We love them. It is also annual at LaBagh. And now that somebody has just seen one just up the river from us at Forest Glen, we're all looking for one. They're usually arriving early. They like the wet area, and they are digging around in leaf litter for the insects that they'll eat. And there's a great view of those bubblegum pink legs, but this view is even better, I think, as far as showing those pink legs. And that you got that broad supercilium. And again, on all of these, you can see that I'm showing you not only the photos, but the C stands for the Cook County, and that shows you the eBird prevalence rate, and the L shows you the LaBagh prevalence rate. And then, of course, I've got the range maps. And as you can see from the range map on the Louisiana water thrush, we aren't supposed to get them, but we do. Again, it's an overflight bird that we usually get here. And I would highly recommend, of all the warblers, know this bird's call early in the spring. It's the first one you have to really learn, and you can find this bird by knowing its call. Shortly after the Louisiana water thrushes head back to where they're supposed to be breeding, you'll start seeing an influx of the northern water thrush. It is very similar in a bird that many people find confusing to ID between northerns and Louisiana water thrush. Again, focus on the color of the legs, the supercilium, and you can see the coloring is a little different in the underbelly. It takes a lot of practice to ID the two, but here's the real simple thing. Louisianas are early, Northern water thrushes are a little later unless you're in an area where they might be breeding. Here's another great look at a northern water thrush. And there are ground sulking warbler as well, and they're a warbler that will flush again to a perch, and they have a loud chip call that they'll let you know again that they're angry that you have flushed them from what they were doing looking for food. At LaBagh, we find them along the river, and in the river, we have sometimes flotsam in the river on the sides, and we've got one beautiful flotsam right now that covers the whole river, and they'll be up on that garbage looking for insects that are flying around in that litter that has jammed up on a fallen log. This is probably one of the most sought after warblers at LaBagh Woods, and LaBagh Woods is an absolutely fantastic place to find this bird in both the spring and the fall. It's much sought after. It is always a bird that I hear before I see, know the buzzy call variations because it makes more than one call. Usually find it mid-canopy, and if you'll notice here, in this one photo, it's on an elm tree, and those are elm leaves, American elm. It loves elms, and you can find it looking for elm budworm with some regularity. Another tree it likes very much is hawthorn, and it loves to pick insects out of hawthorn. Note the black throat patch, and when we talk later about where to find this, the trestle at LaBagh Woods is a great place to start looking for this bird. Another of the winged warblers that makes a buzzy call is the blue-winged warbler, and it's also a much sought after warbler that people come to LaBagh Woods to look for. We get it also in the spring and the fall. We usually have them for 2 to 4 weeks. Same with the golden-winged warbler. It does breed in Cook County. This is a bird that you can find on territory. I'm guessing it probably breeds out in McHenry County as well. But for Cook County birders, this is a much sought after bird in migration. Again, the call variations, it's helpful to know. And I just love the look of this bird. It's steel blue wings and that bright yellow head and neck, and that sort of stripe, black stripe through the eye. I don't know if it's like a racing stripe or a mask, but it's a really attractive bird. And if it would just sit still long enough, we could get some pictures of it. So there's a nice look at its face without seeing the wings. Probably one of the favorite warblers that I've already heard some people are starting to see in the area is the black and white warbler. I think people like them just because they're active and fun, and they hop around and they're interesting to watch. And they're very abundant in this area. This is one of their main flyways, and you can see them from mid-April to even into mid-June. They're the only warbler that will climb tree trunks down, and that is a real distinctive thing. Most other birds move up. They move around a lot like a creeper does, and that the striking black and white patterning is distinctive. About the only thing that you could confuse it with that's black and white is a black pole warbler in the spring, but that has a black pole or a black cap, and I think you can see that this has a stripe right through the middle. I'm forgetting to show you all the different pictures I have. And here's one going up a tree. This is LaBagh Woods, what would we want to call it? Mascot bird. This is the bird we've been trying to get to breed at LaBagh for a couple of years now. We've put out nest boxes for them. We know in the slough area that we have the proper habitat. We just can't get them to settle down. We've had them actually go in and out of our nest boxes looking at the nest boxes, but they didn't stay. And here's one of the things that I've learned about prothonotary warblers is they're very loyal to a breeding location. And where they're born, they will go back to, and that's where they will nest unless there's pressure to move out of that area for whatever reason. And you don't find prothonotary warblers setting up new places to breed unless they're sort of forced out of the area that they know and that they were born in. So our question is, why won't they breed at LaBagh Woods? We've seen many of them there. We love their look. That tinge of orange in the front is so shocking in a beautiful way. And it's another one of the warblers that when people say there's a prothonotary warbler in Cook County, everybody wants to run to see it. And we usually have a couple for a few days every year at LaBagh Woods, again, in the wet places. And I believe this is the picture that we advertised with. I was walking in a flood at LaBagh Woods. And as I was walking through this flood in about a foot of water with 3 other people, this bird just popped up about 3.5 feet in front of us and started singing enthusiastically, putting on the most amazing show I've ever seen from a prothonotary warbler. It didn't seem to care one bit that 4 of us were taking as many pictures as our cameras could take in a very short period of time. This is probably one of the rarest warblers that we've seen at LaBagh Woods. The Swainson's warbler is a rare and highly sought after warbler anywhere in Illinois. It's a warbler that used to breed in the cane that grows, and that used to grow in Illinois. There's not a lot of it left. And where we do find it in southern Illinois, very southern Illinois, that's where it is in the cane. And for a few hours, one May, we had a Swainson's warbler that somehow overshot migration and ended up at LaBagh. And when this picture was taken, this is probably one of the last photos that was taken of this bird before it disappeared. And we were glad to get the word out, and we probably had, I don't know, 20, 30 people get to see it, which is a fantastic bird for Cook County. But a bunch of people arrived after it took off, and it was never seen again. This is one of our most common spring warblers. And confession, looking through all my photos to put this presentation together, I don't have many good pictures of Tennessee warblers. I think it's just because I overlook them, but don't overlook them. I think I overlook them because I have a hard time IDing them, but I've gotten a little better at it. And again, the call is a great way to get started on them. You know, look for the eye stripe, almost looks sparrowy. It's maybe not the most dramatic of warblers, but they're also a really fun bird to watch move around. And you know, once you learn the call, it's a 3-part call, and it's very distinctive. We should start seeing the orange-crowned warblers very soon. They're an early warbler in the spring, and they're one of the last to leave in the fall. They're very dependent on insects, and they're one of the warblers that we're trying to create more habitat for. By creating native shrub habitat, we're creating a place for insects, and this warbler likes insects. And I'm going to ask this as a rhetorical question. Maybe you guys can tell me later. I've never seen the orange crown on an orange-crowned warbler in the wild. Now, I have seen it when I've looked at specimens, but it's one of my goals is to photograph an orange-crowned warbler's orange crown. So another one of the warblers named from places in Tennessee, the Nashville warbler. And I have a big running joke with this, this bird. That eye ring will occasionally get people to quickly yell out, "Connecticut!" And they're not as big as a Connecticut warbler. The eye ring isn't quite as dominant as a Connecticut warbler, and it's in trees. So a friend of mine many times in a row yelled out Connecticut when he saw Nashville warblers that were on the ground that hopped up into a tree. And so we now call them tree Connecticut's. And he doesn't like that I tell this story. So if he finds out that I did it again, I'm going to hear about it. It does have a full eye ring, but it does not have a yellow throat, breast, and belly. Excuse me. It has the yellow throat, breast, and belly, as well as the undertail covert. It can be found in the ground in low vegetations, but it also flies up to the tops of trees. It is, again, one of our most abundant warblers. And in the spring, its song can sound like it's everywhere, like all around you, because sometimes you get huge groups of them that will come in at one time. There's a great shot showing the yellow throat, the yellow breast, the yellow belly, and the young yellow undertail covert. Because this is the kind of shot you often get of a Nashville warbler when you're looking up at it. And this is a fall shot of one down at Montrose, getting a drink of water. Here is the Connecticut warbler. So what we first notice right away is it's got that big eye ring, big eye, but we have a gray throat and a gray upper breast. That's one of the big ways that you tell them apart. I believe this is a female. I think this is one of the only Connecticut's that I photographed at LaBagh Woods that is of any of quality. It's a sulker. It can be very difficult to find. Unlike the bird that will come next, it doesn't make a lot of calls. The mourning warbler can make a lot of noise, even though you can't see it. You know it's there. The Connecticut warbler often is a bird you just flush, you see it, and it's gone. And that's the way it works. We find it in a couple of spots at LaBagh Woods, and if you guys come out in May, I think you're coming on the 23rd, you'll find that this is a warbler that could be on site when you're there. It's a warbler that shows up about that time of year. Same bird, gave me a different pose, and then it took off. And here's the mourning warbler. Usually an annual bird for us at LaBagh Woods, and it's another sulker that doesn't like to let us get a picture of it. It's loud though. Its song is often how you find it. So once you get to the 8th, 10th of the month, you should be playing that song so you get it in your head and are aware of it, because it's a very vocal bird. It makes a lot of noise where it's hiding and looking for food. And if you can get it to call, you can usually just plant yourself in one spot and wait, and it will show up. And there's the male with that really nice dark black spot on the breast. We have observed Connecticut warblers at LaBagh Woods. I believe there are 7 eBird occurrences, but it's not a bird we see regularly. The last time that I saw one was a female, so it wasn't colored quite like this. It's not a regular bird in Cook County. It's a much sought after warbler in Cook County. I don't even know if we get it every year in Cook County. It does breed down in the Palos area, but not many. Sometimes only 1 or 2 pairs. So when we get it at LaBagh, it's a big deal. And it's mainly found in southern Illinois forests or even mid-state Illinois forests. But it's another sulker. It's often seen, it's often heard and not seen. And if I'm totally candid with you, to get this one to come out and show itself, I had to provoke it with some callback. It's not something I'd recommend you do on a breeding territory. This bird wasn't on a breeding territory, and it's the way I got it to come out and give us a look. There's a reason they call this bird common, because it is very common. And in fact, it is the only warbler species that breeds at LaBagh Woods annually. We have several pair that are there every year raising young. The males that got that distinctive mask, of course. The female is all yellow and brown. Oops, I went backward. I don't want to go backward. And there's another male. But this is what I want you to see. There's a female. It's one of the first calls everybody seems to learn when they're learning the warbler calls. You find it in grassy areas. And the trick on this bird that you all need to know is they make a call that's very similar to one of the wrens, the sedge wren. So I remember once being in an area where we thought we had 7 sedge wrens, and we were all excited about it when I was a newer birder. And then we started kind of kicking around a little more, and they're all common yellow throats. There were no sedge wrens there. So we're happy to have this bird throughout LaBagh Woods in spring migration. Another of the uncommon and much sought after warblers is the hooded warbler. Again, a bird that's probably breeding to the west and south of Chicago. We've thought more than 1 year that one of the males was going to stay, and it had a female that it was associating with, but they've never stayed and bred at LaBagh that we're aware of. They're very loyal to breeding locations, going back to the same spot year after year, and then often the next generation will do the same thing. I'm sure it breeds in Cook County, but not a lot of them. And like I said, we've had pairs at LaBagh Woods, but we've never seen them breed there. Whenever I happen to get one there, it's the big show. Everybody comes out to see our hooded warblers because they'll often stay for a week or 10 days. Last year was the first year that I had a hooded warbler that almost no one cared about because we had a different warbler that was showing up that stole the show. And we'll get to that bird in just a minute. For whatever reason, the hooded warblers at LaBagh, they're not shy, and they offer great opportunities to get wonderful photos. This is the American redstart. This bird I'm very concerned with. We don't realize how lucky we are because this bird is a bird that we're in the middle of its flyway, but its population has had a huge decline. More than 50% last reading I did. I know it says 47% here. I think I just read it's now up to 54%. I love this jet black look. And one of the tricks to most photographers is to get a picture of this warbler that's good enough that you can see the eye, because that black is always blending in and you just can't see it. So I'm particularly happy with this photo. This is the female. Some of us joke around and refer to this as the yellow start warbler. The young birds in the fall will look like this as well. And this bird could breed in all the areas around us. I don't think we've had it breed at LaBagh Woods, but I know a couple other areas in Cook County, they have had it breeding. I just love that look of the female. And at LaBagh Woods, even though this bird population is declining, there are days when we can have 50, 70 of these birds hopping through the woods. They can be very abundant. This, in my mind, is one of the most striking and underrated warblers that breeds in coniferous forests to our north in the taiga forests. It is uncommon, but annual. Lisa, I'm going to give you this heads up right now. This bird on the trestle at LaBagh Woods, there's the train trestle, you'll get to figure out where that is. And on both the southeast side and the northeast side, there are Siberian elms. And we often will get a male in each tree defending it as a territory while it eats the elm budworm that is there. Elm budworms open up the elm buds. It's by eating some of the sugar off of it. And these guys will defend a tree for themselves to eat all the worms that are in the tree. And I think it's just so fun. They move around a lot, so getting a good photo is hard, but they are doggone, they're a good looking bird. So this is the bird that last year stole the spotlight from the hooded warbler that we had at LaBagh Woods. This is a cerulean warbler. And cerulean warblers, as some of you know, are infrequently seen in Cook County. In fact, they're infrequently seen in the state of Illinois. They're a bird of a very high canopy. It's hard to coax them to come down, but last year we had a pair of them come to LaBagh, and they were there on a couple of cold days. So they were eating insects on the ground. And that means that the male and the female gave us absolutely phenomenal shows. There was one point last year when I counted 55 birders on the paths of LaBagh looking to take pictures of these two birds. and they just didn't seem to care at all about the crowd that they were there. It's a bird that is not doing well. It's had a huge population crash. But here's the secret that we didn't tell a lot of people about is the male kept calling for about 10 days last year. They put on a big show. They were down by the river. Everybody got to see them and photograph them, but then it warmed up and they don't need to eat insects on the ground. They moved back up to the canopy of LaBagh, and we heard and got periodic views of them for about a week, 10 days. And we thought they might breed at LaBagh, but in the end, they did not breed at LaBagh. And we're hoping they'll come back and give us another try this year. This is another really good bird to know the call. It's a tough call, but I found my lifer cerulean warbler at LaBagh Woods because I knew the call that it made. And here is a view that you often get of a cerulean warbler because you're looking up at it. Lots of white, dark little necklace, dark blue head. Another warbler that you can find high up. At LaBagh Woods, this is another bird you hear before you see. And hawthorn flowers in this area. Look at hawthorns when they're in bloom. That's where you'll find this bird. Often seen from below. Check out that broken eye ring. It breeds north of our area, but it is a migrant. It breeds south of our area as well. The females don't have that chestnut color in the neck band. I think I have one here. There you go. They're just a fun bird. And they make me happy when I hear them first and see them second. I found one of the striking things about this, look at that range map. They've drawn a line up the middle of the United States and they won't cross it. It's crazy. You look at all the other range maps and they're not nearly as dramatic as this one is. I just think that's crazy. A very common warbler. Again, we can have days where we have 50, 70, 100 of these in the woods at one time. It's found throughout the site, moving quickly, gleaning insects as it goes along. The males in full breeding plumage can be very complex. One of the mistakes some people make is that necklace in the front. People can confuse that for a Canada warbler, but if you notice all the other markings on this bird, the two are very different. And this is a bird that you can ID just from the undertail covert alone. Just look at that undertail, that flash in the tail, that white flash in the tail will help you. And it's a great bird. It's tough to get good photos of, but it's a fun bird. I have to admit, I think pretty much all the warblers are pretty fun birds. I believe this is a fall a shot of a magnolia. They change a little bit for the fall. I've mainly tried to focus on spring bird colors here, but some of them I threw in the fall ones as well. This is one of the best birds that you can find if you find a male in full bleeding plumage. And this particular male, when we found it, on the trestle at LaBagh, we get moss on wet springs that grows right on the concrete, right on the wall. And this bird was flying around the moss, clinging to the side of the trestle and picking bugs along with a prothonotary warbler, a hooded warbler, and a number of other warblers. But it's a great bird. And we get this most years at LaBagh, though we often don't get such great views as this particular year when we got great views. And like the cerulean warbler, destruction of habitat in the taiga forest has really, really hammered this bird. And I think last year I saw 2 at LaBagh Woods. So they're always a treat when we find them. We still get them. We hope we'll continue to get them. Here's a look at its back. You see that, you know what you've got. It's distinctive. And amazing how quickly they can change. This is one of those birds that gives fall warblers a bad name because that's what it looks like in the fall. It loses all of its color. And everybody calls it the Baypole warbler. But pay attention to the color of the legs. That will be your key to identifying it. Here's another treetop specialist. This is one of the birds that's most responsible for warbler neck, but that male's brilliant, bright orange is diagnostic, and it's breathtaking. The females are a little more pale than the males, but I just got to tell you, anytime I see this, I am thrilled. What a good looking bird that is. And this is one of those days at LaBagh where I just sat in one place in the river and I let the birds come to me. And this bird flew up 6 feet from where I was because I wasn't moving much. And it didn't move around. It just showed off. And I was thrilled for it. Yellow warbler. It's a very occasional breeder at LaBagh. I'm sure out in McHenry, you guys hear this and see this bird simply everywhere. And I think it's still a beautiful bird. It's like a mallard duck or an American robin or a wood duck. Because we have it so many places, we don't appreciate its actual beauty. But when you look at the male and sometimes how it gets those dark, bright reds streaking in its breast and belly, it's fantastic. And it is a regular breeder throughout Cook County. We can get it in abundance at LaBagh. We've had it breed there at least twice since I've been a birder and keeping track of things there. But it hasn't bred there for the last couple of years. Here's another bird that, man, it's a complicated bird that we can get in great numbers. Love for it to breed at LaBagh Woods. It does breed in our area, but you can't miss that green orange cap that it has. It's a mid canopy and high canopy, or mid canopy to high shrubs, low trees. And we don't get the numbers quite as much in the fall as we do in the spring. Spring, we can have a lot of these birds on site in a single day. There's a good look at a fall bird. Again, look at that cap. This was, if you remember the day that I told you about where we had the bay-breasted warbler, the prothonotary warbler, the hooded warbler eating off the moss on the trestle, this bird was doing the same thing, same day with those birds. Here's the blackpoll warbler. If you're a new birder, I want you to look at one thing right now, not the feathers. Look at the legs. You might remember that I've told you this. And in the fall, when you see legs that color, you'll know what you have. There's only one warbler that has legs that color. You can see on this, here's a male. It's got the black poll. The poll means head. It's a little later arriving bird, and it always kind of makes me a little sad because when black polls show up, usually you've already got the palm warblers gone and the yellow rumps are gone, and migration is coming to an end. This is one of the birds that gives fall warblers a bad name. This is the female, but this is a fall bird. And it's actually a pretty brightly colored bird. And look at the leg color. It's not black. This is another bird you can get at LaBagh in great numbers. I would say that the birds that people come to LaBagh for, hooded warbler we get every year, worm-eating warbler we get every year. They love the the two winged warblers, golden wing and blue wing warbler, and we get abundant black-throated blue warblers coming through. It's a great bird. The males are simply stunning, and we get them both in the fall and the spring. Mid-canopy bird, giving great views, great photo opportunities. For the female, know the check on the wing. See that white check that's there in the middle of the wing? That is how you know you've got a black-throated blue and nothing else. There's no other warbler that has it. Both males and females have it, spring and fall. And we get it in pretty good numbers sometimes. And they give you pretty good views. They just don't seem to be bothered by humans. And this is another one of those birds that you get a photo where the eye shows up, you've done a good job. Here's the Western Palm Warbler. This is, I don't know if anybody else is seeing this. We've got somebody who wants to be admitted to the show right now. Got it. This is one of the very common early warblers, and we have the Western variety. There is an Eastern variety on the other side of the Appalachian Mountains. It prefers to forage on the ground, and you can find it abundantly in LaBagh. You can also, its call is one that you'll learn just because you'll hear it so often. And we can find this in the fall quite a bit as well. They're comfortable hanging out with sparrows and eating with sparrows. You'll often find them in mixed flocks with sparrows. They watch what the sparrows eat and eat that too. They can find on grass regularly, foraging for insects. At LaBagh, we try to get them to not cut the lawn until after the dandelions give us the first bloom. And there's lots of insects in those dandelions, and those dandelion seeds are very good for a bunch of birds, and this bird will eat that too. Like the Audubon, like the myrtle warbler, the Western palm warblers will eat seeds and insects, whereas a lot of the warblers we have are insectivorous only. Isn't that a good looking bird? The pine warbler. This is one of only 2 birds that I've had in a fallout situation at LaBagh Woods. They're not a bird that you see often, but one year in spring, kind of early with a bad storm that was just came through, a bunch of birds flew up, and we had about 200 pine warblers walking around in the parking lot by what we refer to as our electric elm tree. There's an elm tree in a parking lot that has a lot of, again, it's the elm budworm, and they were just picking them off the ground. Plus it got really cold and they were using the asphalt to gather heat. They were just sitting on the asphalt. And it was kind of a sad day. They were with a bunch of yellow rump warblers, and people were driving over them because they weren't moving. The birds just weren't moving. So we had to flush them all out of the way, and eventually they closed that area off so that the birds could just sit there. So it's one of only 2 birds that I've actually generally seen an actual fallout situation where there was just a bunch of them and they're just hanging out because they hit a storm and it wasn't good to them. It's an earlier migrant, and then in the fall it's a later migrant, and it's a bird that can be a little confusing. I should probably look at some of the other pictures in the fall, but in the spring, you know, with those 2 wing bars in that color, yellow and then the white in the back, grayish yellow head, nothing else like it, and the call is distinctive. Everybody's favorite. Just saw my first ones. The myrtle yellow rump warbler. I'm still waiting to find an Audubon yellow rump warbler at LaBagh. When I do, it'll be in this presentation for the future. Not a bird that we get to breed in this area, but we get them through in numbers. There will be days where between Westerns and myrtles, we can have 300-400 of both birds flying through LaBagh. This is the bird that almost every year we'll get one that will stay in Cook County. They can eat seed and will go to feeders, but they're also a great fly catching bird. So you'll see myrtles, especially in the fall, do a lot of fly catching. And they have learned that over our rivers, in the city at least, in the winter, insects can emerge all winter long. And along the North Shore Channel, or even in LaBagh Woods, on the North Branch of the Chicago River, they can fly catch all year and survive if it's not a brutal winter. Good looking male. Fall bird. And if you don't know the nickname, birders will sometimes refer to them as butterbutt. And if you hear butterbutt, that's what they're talking about. Yellow-throated warbler is a bird that's much more common to our south. We're at the very northern edge of their habitat. I know some people were just out in Westchester looking at Doug Stotz's birds in his neighborhood. They're a bird that loves American sycamore trees. They breed in those down to the south. And that yellow throat sticks out. It's one of the two warblers I have not seen in LaBagh Woods. But here's the deal. Last year, we had one right next to LaBagh Woods, 35 feet from LaBagh Woods, and the dang thing wouldn't go into LaBagh Woods. So I have it from right next to LaBagh Woods. It's also a migrant overshoot bird, except in the southern part of the county. And over by you guys, I guess you get them as breeders too. You can see that on the range map. And it's a beautiful bird. Know its call. This is not a bird that we should get in Cook County. This is a prairie warbler, but we have had a record from May of 2015. And then again, I believe we had one in 2019. I forgot to update this. This is a rare bird throughout Cook County. People run after it to see it, but it's abundant in other areas of the state. It likes scrub, can't miss its call. You know, over by Hennepin Hopper is one of the areas that we've found it breeding. We've also seen it at the Army Depot, Savannah Army Depot, out in the western Mississippi, western part of the state along the Mississippi. And it's a beautiful little bird. But, you know, we get occasionally birds that stray out of their migration zone, and they end up at LaBagh, and we're always happy when they do. Fran took this picture, and this is the LaBagh bird. You can notice that both photos, it's in an elm tree, and it stayed in this elm tree for 3 days. It didn't leave the elm. It just stayed there eating elm budworm. So if you haven't figured out, elm budworms in early elm blooming of the seed pods, it's a good place to find warblers. And this is a photo that I took at the Hennepin Hopper area where they breed. So this is not a bird I've seen at LaBagh Woods. It's only been recorded at LaBagh once. This is definitely a vagrant. It's the black-throated gray warbler, and it was seen at LaBagh in May of 1998 by a single observer. This is what the black-throated gray warbler looks like in breeding plumage. Now, what does that look like? Well, some people would say it can look like a blackpoll. Some people can say it looks like a black and white warbler. And it does kind of look like a black and white warbler. This is what you have to notice, that little yellow patch. And because I just didn't remember this, a few years ago, I had probably a black-throated gray warbler. I didn't stay on it because I just didn't remember that the yellow spot was significant. And it's one of the warblers that got away. When this bird showed up at LaBagh in 98, it was the 7th record in the state. And since then, I think they've been observed in other areas around here, including out by you guys. Brendan Lake had one at Judson University in 2014. So here's one, but you can see on this slightly different view, you see that yellow spot? You could just barely see it, but you got to pay attention for it. The other rare bird that we've had at LaBagh Woods is a single record of a Townsend's warbler, again, another western vagrant they get in this area. And again, last year there was one up in Deer Grove that stayed for a week. Many people got to see it. I did as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful bird, and it's a, you know, I think of it as a California bird. When this bird was in LaBagh in 2007, I almost didn't go see it because I just returned from a trip in California where I saw them everywhere. And I wasn't really a lister yet. I just started birding in 2006. And my neighbor insisted, go see this bird at LaBagh. And I'm like, okay. she watched my two kids because I had parent duty that day. And she watched the two kids while I went over there. I saw the bird, and I got a flat tire. And I had to change the flat tire. She ended up watching my kids for 2.5 hours while I saw the bird, changed the tire, got home. It was a lot of fun for me. Here's a really great shot of that Townsend's warbler from 2007. All right, we're coming through at the end here, guys. Black-throated green warbler, love its plumage, love those males, great looking bird. An early warbler that stays late. You can see a lot of them, know that call, and I just enjoy the heck out of watching them. They're very active, and they don't seem to be put off by humans so much. All right, Stacy's back on. Am I over limit here? Is that why she's back on? Okay, so another view of that black triangle underneath its chin. And, you know, the only other bird you're going to see with a triangle, it's not nearly that big as the golden wing warbler. And then one of everybody's favorite is the Canada warbler. It's not a bird that we see a lot. It's also had a really steep population decline. It's a bird of the taiga forest. It's a late spring bird for us at LaBagh. And this is the necklace that everybody knows about. Notice it's got sort of a Kentucky look to the face there. It's got a nice eye ring, at least in the bottom part. And then that necklace and that yellow, and then the white undertail covert. We get them every year. Best place to find them is along the river. Oops, I didn't want to go there quite so quick. Problem is they don't often sit still. To get this photo, I probably took 150 shots to get this one good shot of this bird. This is a favorite little mouse-like bird that we get at LaBagh and a lot of other places. It makes what a lot of people call is the dog squeaky toy sound. And it's got that black cap, bright orange face, almost prothonotary orange, constant motions in the scrub. Another bird that's not doing well, but we seem to have a lot of them coming through our flyway. That's a classic look for a Wilson's warbler. All kinds of stuff in front of you and it. All right, so let's wrap up here. Our last one. I know it's not a warbler anymore, but we saw one at LaBagh, so I'm going to include it. We have 4 records at LaBagh Woods. I imagine you guys see a lot more of them out in McHenry than we do, though we do have it breeding in Cook County. This is one of the two records that I have seen at LaBagh Woods. Here's the other one. Both these photos were taken by Larry, my friend Larry. This is another bird you'll hear before you see. It's a photo that I took from Duffy Woods, where I do breeding bird surveys, and we get them every year. So now I know the question you're all asking after we've been through all the warblers at LaBagh, 38 species, is what are the only 2 warblers seen in Cook County that have not been seen at LaBagh Woods? If I knew how to do it, I'd ask you guys what you thought it was, but we don't have time and want to keep moving. This is one of them. This is a great warbler for anywhere in Illinois, and it showed up at Montrose in 2003, I believe it was, and it's a Grace's warbler. First state record. I think it's still the only state record. And in case you don't know what it looks like in color, there's a Grace's warbler. Just stunning bird that I love when I'm down in its native range seeing it. The last time I saw it was down in Nevada, southern Nevada. The other one we're going to find at LaBagh. We're going to get this bird at LaBagh Woods. This bird has delighted dozens of birders, both at Montrose in 2015 and Grant Park in 2019. It is one of our 2 rarest, it's probably our rarest warbler in the United States. Last I read, there are only 3,600 birds in the breeding population, and it breeds in northern Michigan. For years, exclusively bred there. But if you look at the orange spots on the range map, you can see it's starting to spread out. And that is why we're going to see it at LaBagh Woods, because there's some jack pine growing. You can see it in Wisconsin, in the middle of the state there. Those birds, why do they have to fly over Lake Michigan? Why not take the shortcut and come through LaBagh Woods on their way to where they're going? And actually, that's what these birds have done. Those first two photos are the bird from May of 2015. And this was one of the birds from May of 2019. So these are only two birds that have not been seen at LaBagh. I would be glad to get the Kirtlands. If we get a Grace's warbler, you will all know about it, and probably some of you will make the trip down to LaBagh to see it if it sticks around. So where to bird at LaBagh Woods? Well, I can go through this, but I kind of thought I'd leave it for Q&A. But if you look at, there's a line that kind of crosses LaBagh from the south west going to the northeast. That's what we call the railroad grade. It's the Weber Spur Trail. And the edges there are very important. Lisa, if you look where the river crosses the railroad grade, that's where the trestle is. And the four corners of the trestle are simply phenomenal areas for birding because you're up high and you can look at the birds at eye level when they're in the top of the tree. And especially on the northeast corner, there is not only a Siberian elm, but there is a silver maple that has the buds are great for, the flowers are great for insects, and the warblers just love that tree. I once sat underneath that tree in a May, I think 2010, and photographed 22 species of warblers in one sitting at LaBagh as they moved down the river, up the river, I should say, and came by me. It was simply fantastic. Where else to bird at LaBagh Woods? The river, especially on the north side of the river, in the first part there where you see sort of it, the trail comes to a Y, the top part, or what would be the right part, and Lisa, I'll get this information to you for the group you're bringing down. But the south, all along the south, the river trail is great. And then if you look, I don't know if I have it in here. Yes, I do. If you look again at this map, you can see that there's a wet spot there in the middle. That's an old part of the riverbed. And it's often flooded. And the warblers love to go in a circle all around that wet spot. And they just, all day long, sometimes they'll go in circles around that. And then they'll come up the edges. You can see that there's a little bit of a slope there all around. They like that. And then another great area to go is on the, if you're looking to the east side of LaBagh, south of the river, there's a black line there as it goes to Gompers. And that slope river area is simply fantastic for the warblers. So great areas to go birding. So the balancing act of restoration at LaBagh, you know, we're doing it. We're cutting understory. Warblers like understory, so we're trying to replace it. It's a difficult decision to decide what to take and what to leave. But the buckthorn isn't good for the warblers except for cover. The food is terrible. And we're trying to add native food with the native shrubs of the 40+ species that we're adding to LaBagh. If you want to learn more about LaBagh Woods, we have a Facebook group. It's called Maier's Birding at LaBagh Woods. And if you just go to Facebook and type in Maier's Birding or LaBagh Woods, you'll find it. We're always looking for help fundraising. I'm in the middle of doing a Jeff's birthday fundraiser for LaBagh Woods. I can tell you thankfully that we've reached our goal, but we'll always take more. We get no government funding for the shrubs that we put into LaBagh Woods. We fundraise for everything that we do there, and you're welcome to donate. I know no one's going to write down this long number, but if you are seriously interested in making a donation, I'd be glad to send you this link so you can do that. So I'll end it here. I don't know how we facilitate this, but you know, questions, problems, worries. There's my contact information. You can take a screenshot of it. Shoot me any questions you have. And there's another copy of the link so that you can find us on Facebook. And I think I'm going to exit out of this and make it so we can all see each other. And I'm glad to take whatever questions people have.